Funny how nowadays everybody's trying to escape from LA. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the John Carpenter review series, and this is it! I've drawn this out long enough, I have bled it dry long enough, I have been lazily just putting it off long enough. Over the next 2 weeks, we're wrapping this bitch up. We got 4 films left to talk about: Escape from L.A., Vampires, Ghosts of Mars, and The Ward. We're gonna get 2 of them out this week, 2 of them out next week, and we are going to end June 2024, finally, with the John Carpenter ranking. So Escape from L.A. was the long-awaited sequel to Escape from New York, one of the earlier and more popular to this day John Carpenter films, and one of the more popular roles made famous by Kurt Russell. And essentially, it takes you through pretty much the exact same plot. You've got Snake Plissken, who is brought in by the current president. There is something in this little prison walled-off area of America that he needs, and so they send Snake Plissken into an area that is completely riddled with criminals to get something and come back in order to save his life. And I actually have pretty vivid memories of checking this movie out in the theaters when I was a kid. Back when it was just me and my dad before my siblings came along and everything else, one of my favorite things for us to do was to go to the movies. And I remember we just got back into our trailer and it was already dark, so it was probably like 8, 9 o'clock at night. And my dad's like, "You wanna go see a movie?" And my response always was, "Yeah." And this is going to color the picture of how people used to go to the movies, whenever you just get in the mood and you didn't know exactly what was playing or what time or what theater. And so I actually remember going to get the newspaper and opening it up to the middle where they had the movie section. And back during the summertime especially, there used to be a whole bunch of movie posters. And so I remember opening it up, and damn near the entire page was this massive poster of Escape from L.A. with Kurt Russell in all of his glory. I remember just opening it up and staring, and then looking at my dad like, well, that decision's made, right? And we went to go check this out at a late night screening, and as a kid, I thought this movie was awesome. I watched it numerous times on VHS. I probably watched Escape from LA 3 times as many times as Escape from New York in my lifetime. As an adult, I definitely acknowledged its flaws way more than my nostalgic love of my childhood, and so I probably watched it 3 times in the last 20 years, and yeah, it's not so good. To this day, people still want another Snake Plissken film. They still want Kurt Russell to come back for one more, and I honestly think that the poor reception and the poor response that Escape from LA got is one of the reasons why that has not happened yet, even though we've had reports of like the radio silence people for a while being attached to it, and I think maybe even Lee Winnell at one point, or maybe that's just some fantasy I made up in my head because he would be awesome for an Escape from New York sequel. Nonetheless, I still think there's hope that maybe one day Kurt Russell will don the eye patch one more and we'll get some badass wrap up to this trilogy to kind of get things back to the glory days of Escape from New York. But nonetheless, as of right now, and possibly forever, the last that we saw of Snake Plissken is Escape from L.A. Now, not all of us have this wonderful legend that is told throughout the land the way that Snake Plissken does. Some of us have to work a little harder to get our names out there, either to promote our business or to promote some of our creative endeavors. And the best way to do that is by creating your own website using the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace. Whether you own your own business or just want a way to display your creativity, getting your name out there is essential, and the easiest way to do that is by having your own website. While the process of actually creating your website is not so easy, and even somebody like me who's very fluent with computers, I wouldn't have any idea where to start or what to do to actually build one. Luckily, the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace, is here to help. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for creatives and entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Squarespace makes it easy for you to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and even sell anything from products to services to your time. All in one place, all on your terms. Squarespace's new Blueprint AI allows you to personalize your own website with a guided design system. Choose from professionally curated layouts and styling options to build the base of your site. You can also upload video content and organize an entire library to showcase your content on a video page, or even sell custom merch for a passive income stream that engages your audience and scales your brand. So if you're ready to break ground on your own website, head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Cody Leach to save 10% off of your first purchase of a website or domain. And thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. So starting off with the positives of Escape from L.A. I still think that Kurt Russell does a damn good job in this role. He is the shining star, both literally and figuratively, of this film. He doesn't miss a beat. He's got that same kind of low audio gruff to his voice. He still looks like a badass with the eye patch and like the different black getup that they give him. He still does great in all the action sequences, whether it's shooting or even just playing a little game of basketball. Kurt Russell is Snake Plissken. Snake Plissken is Kurt Russell. And if nothing else, this movie is worth watching because you get more of Kurt Russell in this role. There is a great ensemble cast here, just a bunch of little like who's who actors from the 70s and the 80s, a lot of B-movie stuff. I mean, you got Bruce Campbell in here, you've got one of the Carradine brothers, one from Revenge of the Nerds, you've got Steve Buscemi, you've got Pam Grier. I mean, all throughout the film, the next character that is brought into the fold, you're like, holy shit! Look who that is! And there's always something fun about that. I feel like at this point in Carpenter's career, he was starting to feel like he was probably reaching the end, the last couple of movies that he was going to do, and so he just started paying homage to actors or roles or eras or subgenres of films that he really appreciated by bringing them all into the fold and Escape from L.A., so that's fun. Specifically, Steve Buscemi, I think, is a lot of fun here. He's one of those characters that's kind of like a shyster, he seems like he's going to be helping Snake Plissken, and then he's fucking him over left and right, but you still kind of like him, so you kind of want Snake Plissken to get back into the fold with him, and all throughout the movie, there's this little bit of a double, triple cross kind of relationship that they have, and I think Steve Buscemi is fun in the role. While certainly a lot of it is dated, and I will get into that later, this is a much bigger movie than Escape from New York. They're a little bit more ambitious with the stunts and the wire work and the set pieces and the formulation of the action sequences throughout the film. So it is a fun enough little action ride. If you like what Escape from New York did, this is a little bit more of a sillier, more over-the-top version of that, and that does have its own charm. I also like the score of this film. That is something to bring up when you're talking about a John Carpenter film. Of course, the opening theme of Escape from New York returns here, but it's a little bit more modernized. It's a little bit more, got a bit more of a rock edge to it, which I actually prefer. I do prefer the score of the opening theme in Escape from L.A., so that's one thing that I'll say was better in this film. But even the recurring theme throughout the film, it has a little bit more of a Western edge to it. It's very much of a precursor to the eventual score that we're going to be talking about next in John Carpenter's Vampires. Just that old school Western vibe with a modern twist. So I do like John Carpenter's work as a composer in this film. And finally, I do really like the way that this movie wraps up. It's, again, very reminiscent of the first film where he comes back and ultimately has this double-cross plot to get back at the president and everybody that put him into this situation. You have the very same thing here, but there's kind of like a double twist. Like, you initially feel like he's setting things up to go a certain way, and then very convincingly lets it go another way, and then there's yet another thing that he's trying to pull the rug out from underneath everybody.
He's not even here, he's a hologram.
Catches on quick, doesn't she?
So I think that it does wrap up in a fun way, even with him shutting down the entire planet, sending everybody back to the Stone Age, getting rid of all the technological advancements that we have worked together for, at the time, the last 500 or so years. Pretty punk rock, pretty badass way for Snake Plissken to leave his mark on the world, if that is in fact the last time we see him. Just don't let it be, please. Movie gods, listen. And now moving on to the negatives. The biggest issue with this film is that it is one of the absolute worst examples of a sequel that is just a carbon copy of the original. I mean, this is damn near the same exact script that they just took certain details and swapped them out like a Mad Libs game. Take out New York, put in L.A. Take out a bomb getting injected into him and put a slow coursing poison. Take out a gladiator fight and put in a basketball match. Take out him fooling the president with a tape recording and put in him fooling the president with a hologram. I mean, it's the same exact beats. It's the same exact structure. It's damn near the same movie with a different skin. And what that does is it just constantly draws your attention to how much better of a film Escape from New York is. Escape from L.A. never had to be better than New York. It never had to match New York. It just had to be a really good sequel, a really fun time, another adventure with Snake Plissken. And it just felt like in the script writing department, they just threw together the quickest version of that they possibly could to greenlight it and to get it into production. And if it wasn't for Kurt Russell being a badass, I would have almost nothing nice to say about this film. So there's still some redeeming quality to seeing yet another escape from adventure with Snake Plissken. But my God, could we have gotten something just slightly more original? It also takes away a lot of the intrigue for the third act and where things are going to go and any investment you have and whether or not Snake Plissken's going to be successful or not. Or it just takes away all of it, because by the time you get 40 minutes through the film and you realize, oh, we're just doing exactly the same shit over and over again. Like, this is beat for fucking beat. Then you just see where the rest of the film is going. And so you're like, okay, well, I guess I'll just watch. Another big issue with this film is that they were very ambitious, as I said, and I do give them credit for that, but this was right on the cusp of CGI starting to kind of slowly become what it turned into in the late 2000s, and so this is very much a dated version of mid-90s CGI. I mean, you have the hang gliding scene, you have the underwater submarine scene, you have probably the most infamous sequence of this film, maybe one of the more infamous sequences of John Carpenter's career, in that whole surfing scene. And honestly, as a kid, I had no basis for comparison. I don't remember if I thought that looked cool as a kid or not. I don't remember if I was an adult, if it would have looked decent at the time of release, but it's one of those versions of CGI, like so many movies from the 90s through to the mid to late 2000s, that just dates it immediately. And so you watch a lot of these sequences and you try to just invest yourself in the action, you try to just have fun with it, you try to just say, oh, that looks cool, but it doesn't look cool. It looks fucking weird. It looks bad. It looks... Ugh. Even something as simple as the wire work in like the hang gliding assault in the third act, like everybody knows how a hang glider works. Like, you're going to be descending the entire time. It's just kind of softening how fast you decline. And you got Pam Grier and her little minions and Snake Plissken just swarming around these people like fucking buzzards and cicadas, and they never get close to the ground. They just keep flying around eternally, and it's like, bitch, that ain't how it works. That's not convincing at all when you do it that way. I also think because the film has a much more silly and possibly self-aware, over-the-top nature to it, it's not nearly as intense as Escape from New York is. It's not nearly as tension-filled as Escape from New York is. It just kind of feels a little more fun, a little more goofy, a little bit more lax, and while that can lead to an entertaining film, it also just kind of makes it to where you long for the serious tone of the previous film. You long for the darkness of the previous film. You long for how that film made you feel, because while this is essentially the same movie, it's not evoking the same emotions. In fact, when you watch this, it almost has the tone of something that is spoofing Escape from New York more than it does a film that is following up Escape from New York. There's some kind of like a dark neo-realism about Escape from New York and that potential future and like the post-apocalyptic vibe that it gives, the descent of society commentary that it has. Here, it's the same stuff, it's the same commentary, it's the same endpoint, but in a much goofier tone and a much sillier, more over-the-top tone. And I just think the character of Snake Plissken and what Kurt Russell brings to that character fits more with the former and not so much the latter. He fits more with that dark surrealism. He doesn't fit as much with the parody spoof kind of vibe that it goes for. And the funniest thing about that is that John Carpenter has been on record a couple different times saying that he thinks to this day Escape from L.A. is a much better film than Escape from New York. He prefers this film. He prefers the tone of it, the approach of it. He thinks it is a better achievement from him as a director than Escape from New York, which is wild. You know, it's fascinating to me. You see a lot of people that are the artists that put these things out into the world have a very different perspective on it than those of us that just get to experience it. You know, one of the reasons why Robert Englund thinks that his best work is Freddy, I believe he said, is Part 5. So it's always fascinating to me when you hear things like that. You know, damn near the entire world saying, no, John, Escape from New York is significantly better. And he sticks to his guns. No, I made it. And Escape from L.A. is better. You just haven't caught up yet. You'll like it in time. Eventually, you'll all come to my way of thinking on this. One day. Overall, guys, this is one of those situations where if somebody had never seen these films before, I would definitely recommend watching both of them. But if you're only going to watch one, I 100,000% would be the guy telling you just watch Escape from New York. Like, they're the same movies, but kind of different in tone and approach, and I much prefer everything about the approach of Escape from New York. So, Escape from L.A., decent follow-up if you're just really in a Snake Plissken mood. On its own, I don't feel like it's one of the stronger efforts from my beloved Carpenter. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed that, click over here for a playlist of all of my John Carpenter reviews. I'm also going to put the review of Escape from New York directly up here if you want to check out my thoughts on that one. Like, share, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of this review series that I am finally putting to bed. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.